Hello, I'm Vinnie Iyer, and it's time to reveal Sporting News' 2023 NFL Mock Draft. All right, we got to start with round one, and pick one goes to the Carolina Panthers right now. They made that big deal with the Chicago Bears, a blockbuster, sending DJ Moore to Chicago. We know the Panthers need a quarterback. The biggest question about this pick is not whether it's going to be a quarterback, but which of the quarterbacks. And you look at the options, they're pretty clear. CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, Bryce Young from Alabama, and then the high upside wunderkind of the combine, that's Anthony Richardson. But when you look at Richardson and what he did at Florida, he didn't have a lot of playing experience, so that hurts with that. You got to wait for him to kind of be polished to play. Bryce Young is great, but he's not the traditional size quarterback. I think you look at this as a Goldilocks and the three Bears situation, and you say, who's just right for the Panthers? And you say it's CJ Stroud, because you look at the offense here of Frank Reich and Thomas Brown, say they need a polished pocket passer that has a little bit of athleticism. I think Young runs around a little bit too much for what Reich and Brown may want, and I think Richardson just a little too raw. So right in between, CJ Stroud, the best of both worlds you get. And he's the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick, and I think he will be, assuming the Panthers don't trade down from number one. Panthers take C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State. That would leave the Houston Texans with a rather easy decision. Now, the Texans have DeMeco Ryans as their head coach. They're installing kind of a 49ers Southwest down there in Houston, so makes sense to get a quarterback who's ready to play now, can fit the system, have a lot of leadership skills. We know where DeMeco Ryans went to school, Alabama, so he's going to feel very comfortable going with Bryce Young as the quarterback here. So I really like the offense of the 49ers coming to Houston. I think Bryce Young is a perfect fit for it. So we made the Panthers happy, number one, with Stroud, a quarterback that fits their system. Same thing here. The Texans take Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama, with the number 2 overall pick. And number 3, the Cardinals are waiting for their quarterback to get healthy. They gave Kyler Murray a big contract. Colt McCoy is also on the mend, but they're not going to take a quarterback. They've invested a lot in both guys here to say that this is going to be their combination going forward no matter what. I think you look at the best defensive player available for the Cardinals. J.J. Watt retired. They lost a few other pieces. They need a pass rush here. And the best choices here are Will Anderson of Alabama. He's the edge rusher, but he can do a lot more at linebacker. Then you look at Jalen Carter. He's had some issues with the combine, having an off-field thing he had to leave for. He didn't finish his pro day workout. But Will Anderson has been the safest pick in this draft for a long time. All the quarterbacks come with some volatility. So if you're picking number 3 and the Cardinals are staying there, they got to take Will Anderson, the edge out of Alabama, who can play a lot more and be a very disruptive defender for them on the second level. All right, we're up to the Indianapolis Colts at number 4. And with the Colts, it's all about figuring out what they want to do at quarterback as well. So the Panthers, Texans in the same boat here. The Colts kind of lukewarm on trading for Lamar Jackson. They got Gardner Minshew as their best option right now. They released Matt Ryan. They got to stop this with Matt Ryan. And I know they had some results that worked out with Phillip Rivers, but they had Carson Wentz. They got to get out of this. They got to get a dynamic dual threat quarterback here. Maybe wait a year or two to see what you can get out of him. Anthony Richardson has to be the pick. With Stroud and Young off the board, you get Richardson there. Shane Steichen wants a running quarterback in the Jalen Hurts mold, and I think Richardson fits that bill. So we're going number 4, Colts, Anthony Richardson, quarterback, Florida. Now, the Seattle Seahawks have a threshold of taking risks on players, and they have 2 picks in this first round, so that's going to make them want to do that even more. Pete Carroll, John Schneider, what do they need? They need someone on the defensive front. They signed Draymond Jones out of the Broncos in free agency, but he's very limited to being a pass rusher. They need someone who can disrupt against the run, just blow plays up all over the place, and the pick has to be Jalen Carter. I know Carter slipping on some teams' boards. Some teams have taken him off, but the Seahawks are not going to do that. They can win now. They're a playoff team last year with Geno Smith at quarterback. They surprised everyone. Had a fantastic draft last year, just loading up on starters, especially on the offensive line. And in the secondary, they can build that momentum here. So get 2 first-rounders. You can take a chance on one of them. Jalen Carter is the pick here for the Seahawks at number 5 overall, and a very good pick for them for what they need defensively. All right, so let's get out of the top 5 and keep going here in our Sporting News 2023 mock draft. You can check out more on the draft at sportingnews.com. We've got the big board, updated mock drafts there, profiles on players, anything you need, we've got you covered. Detroit Lions are picking up at number 6 here. They also have 2 first-round picks. They got this one from the Rams, still reaping the benefits of the Matthew Stafford trade. I think they need a bookend for Aiden Hutchinson. Great rookie year for Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan as their lead edge rusher. Well, they need a complementary player. Why not go for a freaky athlete that can really deliver here? And we go with TYREE Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. He's just freakishly built here, 6'6", 275. You put him with Hutchinson, bookends. This is what you need if you're Detroit. You really loaded up in the secondary. The Lions spent a lot of money there. They added Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Get that pass rush sewed up here. Get TYREE Wilson on the other side. So I love this pick for the Lions at number 6. At number 7, what do the Raiders like? They like size. They like speed. What do they need? They need a quarterback. So we're going to give them someone who can cover. And in this division, you need one. There's a lot of great receivers in the AFC West. Christian Gonzalez has established himself as the number 1 corner in this class in the combine. 6'1", 197, great size, great speed, can cover all over the field, make big plays. He's got a very athletic pedigree from his family. There's some Olympic background there as well. So that sounds like a Raiders pick to me, even though we don't have the late, great Al Davis anymore. This is his type of pick, Christian Gonzalez. They're at 6'1", 197 to clean up corner for the Raiders behind Max Crosby in that pass rush. All right, we're at number 8 here, and the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. And the Falcons, it seems like perpetually the Falcons need an edge pass rusher. It's good that they're in the wheelhouse for one here at number 8. Their offense, they've taken care of that for now. Desmond Ridder looking at the starter. They got Taylor Heineke as a backup plan at quarterback. Their offensive line re-signed some key pieces there. Get that edge rusher here with this pick for sure. With Myles Murphy, you look at him, he's right up there with Will Anderson and being able to disrupt things. I think TYREE Wilson has a little bit more athletic upside. That's why I liked him going to the Lions there at number 6. But here, Myles Murphy, the edge rusher from Clemson. The Falcons do like taking Clemson players. They do have Grady Jarrett, who came from the Tigers. So you put Murphy up front in this defense, and it's going to wake up their pass rush, really help their secondary. And that's exactly where the Falcons need to go. At number 9, we have a bit of a hometown scenario here. The Panthers were here at this pick, but now the Bears are picking, and they are going to enjoy this pick because, look, they didn't need the number 1 anyway. They have Justin Fields, but what they need is a Justin Fields pass protector. And who's up here? Peter Skoronski. Yeah, it's not too far. Just look up the road to Evanston here. He had an outstanding season for Northwestern. It was hard to tell because the team wasn't very good around him, but you had Rashawn Slater come out of the league into the league as a first-rounder just a couple years ago for the Chargers. He's been outstanding as left tackle. So the Bears need a left tackle. They had Braxton Jones there. They're pretty good in run blocking, but they got to upgrade their pass protection for Justin Fields. So Peter Skoronski, the tackle out of Northwestern, is their pick here at number 9 in our Sporting News first-round mock draft. Rounding out the top 10 are the Philadelphia Eagles. They acquired this pick from the Saints. Now, the Eagles did a good job of drafting for the future of their defense last year. Now they'll have Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, those Georgia teammates in the front 7 starting this year because they lost some pieces up front. Well, now they got to think about the future of their offensive line, specifically at tackle. They've got some future at guard taking it over here with Cam Jurgens. He's in line potentially to replace Jason Kelsey at center, but for now he'll replace Isaac Seumalo at guard. Lane Johnson's about to be 33 here, so they need a replacement for Lane Johnson to think about here. He's been outstanding, but it's going to drop off here pretty soon just with the age and wear and tear. He's had a lot of injuries as well. So I think the pick that makes sense is another Johnson, the second or first best offensive tackle in this class. If you're looking pure left tackle, I think you go Skoronski like the Bears did. If you're going for the right side or guard even at a high level, much like Ike Ekwonu of the pick last year of the Panthers at NC State. You look at Paris Johnson here, 6'6", 313 pounds, really can hold the fort here on the right side. So I do like them drafting one Johnson to replace another Johnson here in a year or two. All right, working out of the top 10, we have the Tennessee Titans at number 11. We have them taking a Johnston, not a Johnson. That's Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver out of TCU. Now, the Titans did take a wide receiver last year, Treylon Burks, but they need a lot of help. They don't have a lot behind him at wide receiver. They need to change the shape of this offense, get some real passing weapons. They didn't quite see the next Antonio Brown yet out of what they saw in Burks last year, but when you look at Quentin Johnson, he's a big play threat. They need to be able to stretch the field better in Tennessee. Burks is a guy that you can put in the short area, throw to, work after the catch. Johnson's just a guy that has a lot of speed, can stretch it, and make some big plays. The Titans need some big pass plays. They need to get with the program here and catch up to the rest of the league. So Quentin Johnson is the pick here, the wide receiver, first wide receiver off the board out of TCU to the Titans at number 11. At number 12, staying in the AFC South, the Houston Texans are on the clock, and they acquired this pick from the Browns for Deshaun Watson. We know a couple years on delay, they have the replacement for Watson in this draft with their earlier pick at number 2 in Bryce Young. They need to get Bryce Young some weapons. They traded Brandon Cooks away in the offseason. And you look at Jordan Addison out of USC by way of Pittsburgh. He transferred and had a great year with Caleb Williams, 6'0", 175 pounds. Some people see him just as a slot receiver. I see him as a guy that's a go-to guy all over the field, much like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who also was out of USC and did such a great job for the Lions here. So the Texans need to make a smart pick, load up their new quarterback with weapons. They got Dalton Schultz at tight end as part of their moves here in the offseason. So Addison would be a great addition here. So he's the pick for the Texans at number 12. At number 13, the Jets, they don't need too much other than a quarterback to be really competitive here. We know that quarterback is going to be delivered sometime during the draft, is the expectation. So the Jets have to keep working on their defense, and it's going to be hard for Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas to ignore that they have a little bit of a need at safety. They have a great secondary. Sauce Gardner has been outstanding. He was the Sporting News Rookie of the Year. And they really did a great job on the back end, but they were a little weak at the safety, and Brian Branch out of Alabama would solve that problem. This kid can fly around. He can play like a nickel back, but also close against the run like a linebacker. So I love this kid as a top safety in this class. I think he's worthy of a top 15 pick. You have Jordan Whitehead there. He's not that great for the Jets at safety. That's the weak part of their secondary. Go ahead and upgrade it with Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama. Love his playmaking ability, and I think it'll translate well in the NFL from Nick Saban. Number 14, the New England Patriots, and they also look at the secondary. They did bring back Jonathan Jones and Jalen Mills in free agency, but they need another corner here. Miles Bryant cannot be their starter on the other side there with Jones. They are a few years removed from Stephon Gilmore, so they're going to go with the name that is going to remind Patriots fans of a rival team, but he's going to play for them, Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter, his father was a Steelers linebacker, caused a lot of problems for the Patriots in the past. Well, Joey Porter Jr. is a fine-sized corner here, 6'2", 198 pounds, out of Penn State. The Patriots need to clean up that other side here, and I think he's going to be a fine starter in this league for many years to come. He's right behind Christian Gonzalez. When you look at the skill set of Porter, just love the size, coverage. A lot of big corners in this class, and the Patriots tap into it early here at number 14 overall. Number 15 to the Green Bay Packers. Well, it's pretty evident where the Packers need to go here. They're turning the page to Jordan Love at quarterback. They've got some wide receivers from last year's draft, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. But what do? They lost to Robert Tonyan, their top tight end. Mercedes Lewis is ancient at this point. He's just a blocker. You need to get playmakers for a young quarterback that are not traditional. And Michael Mayer, the tight end of Notre Dame, is a great pick here. 6'5", 249 pounds. He's just a guy that puts himself in position to make big catch after big catch. They need this element in their offense. It's always missing, it seems to be just someone that they can trust. And I think Michael Mayer is going to be a big target, big time, literally here for Jordan Love going forward, and I'm really excited to see what he can do in the offense. All right, we have the Washington Commanders at number 16. They also could use some secondary help, and yet another corner that's 6'6", 181. That's Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. He's risen well in this process. The corners have kind of reshuffled as we've gone along. Here you had Gonzalez, you had Porter, and now you have Witherspoon as the number 3 on the board. I think he fits what the Commanders want. They were terrible on the back end last year. William Jackson was a disaster. They had to move on from him. Kendall Fuller hasn't been all that good. Benjamin St. Juste, also not a very good corner. He's starting right now. So they got to go back and go get a corner to help their guys up front. It's Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois at number 16 overall. So that's roughly the first half of the first round. Keep in mind the Dolphins do not pick in this round. So we only have 31 picks, so we still have to get through 15 more, and we'll do that right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock at number 17. They also need an offensive tackle to better protect Kenny Pickett. Dan Moore Jr. is not very good on the left side here. So they need to replace him, get a guy that can be a rock in pass protection for many years to come. Go to the national champs, go to Georgia, go get Broderick Jones, 6'4", 310 pounds. This guy is going to hold up and be very athletic. So very good draft for offensive tackles early. You got Skoronski to the Bears. He's going to be a long-term starter. If Johnson goes, he'll wait and be the guy for the Eagles or any other team. That's Paris Johnson. And now you go to Broderick Jones out of Georgia. Great pick for the Steelers here. They're going to hope he's still around here. That's the only concern. But if he's there, they're going to bang the table and pick him here at number 17. At number 18, we're at an interesting pick for the Detroit Lions. Do they make a luxury pick? Yeah, we don't talk about the Lions making a luxury pick much here in drafts, but the Lions are well positioned. They probably should have been a playoff team last year. If they were in a little bit different division, they would have been. They got a lot of upside. They got a lot of money. They got great draft capital. There's not many holes on this team. Go for Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. I know they signed David Montgomery to replace Jamal Williams in free agency, but Bijan Robinson is a next-level type of back, and we're not just saying going from college to pros, but raise it beyond that, where he could be a consistent all-pro in this league. That's how good Bijan Robinson is. He gives you a little bit of everything, a power back, an explosive back, a change of pace back, a very good receiver. You get it all here. And if you put Bijan Robinson behind that Lions offensive line with the weapons they have in the passing game, this offense will be really hard to stop. And Bijan Robinson probably fast-tracked to Offensive Rookie of the Year with this pick. We are missing a quarterback here that you may have thought you would have heard about already going on the board here, but it's time for Will Levis, the quarterback out of Kentucky, to be the 4th guy taken at that position. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock at number 19. Something big happened for them this offseason. Yeah, Tom Brady retired. They didn't have a lot else at quarterback. They had to sign Baker Mayfield as a bridge option. They're not going to give the job to Kyle Trask. We know that. It's going to be Mayfield-Trask battle. Really, it's going to be Mayfield holding down the pocket here for Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky. They can wait a little bit for him, get Mayfield in there for 1 year, transition away from Brady if they want to. But the big arm, great receivers they still have there, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You need somebody to get them the ball. So I would not be surprised if the Buccaneers trade up should Will Levis drop a little bit. But if they're sitting there straight up at 19 and Will Levis is there, you got to take him. You need a quarterback, and this would be a real fortunate bounce if that happens for the Bucs. We're up to the 20th pick in the first round, and the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock, and they can do a lot of things here. They got Jalen Carter with their first pick in this mock draft at number 5, so they have all kinds of options here. I think they need to think about the future and also get another playmaker here for Geno Smith, and that means going wide receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State, 6'1", 195 pounds. They already have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett's getting up there. You need a third receiving threat that can move all over and be outside, inside. At this point, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are playing on the outside. So Jackson Smith-Njigba has some slot tendencies that are very good here. He can scheme himself open and really is just a very polished receiver. And when you look at what they have D. Eskridge as their number 3 wide receiver. Seahawks can do better than that. I think they'll use more 11 personnel with the 3 wide receivers. And this would just take their offense to another level here, add this dimension of that third receiver. They haven't had this guy in a while in Seattle, but Jackson Smith-Njigba can solve that problem here at number 20 overall. Staying with the wide receiver at number 21, the Chargers could also use a receiver. Very similar situation. They got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they need that third threat that's reliable. I know they have Joshua Palmer here, but Chargers also have to think about replacing Keenan Allen soon. He's getting up there, so very similar to Lockett aging out for the Seahawks. Keenan Allen was rumored to be a cut candidate this offseason, so they got to think about someone who can play in the slot, very much like Tyler Lockett. So bringing it full circle here with the Seahawks-Chargers similarities with these back-to-back picks. But Zay Flowers, much like Tyler Lockett, even similar size. If you put on their film, it's almost identical here. So Zay Flowers, a wide receiver out of Boston College, going to the Chargers. He's done a great job, combine, pro day workouts. He's really been on the rise here to work himself into a first-round pick. So very worthy pick here for the Chargers at number 21. Now, the Baltimore Ravens need a cornerback here with Marcus Peters not being re-signed. They just need to get better on the back end, and they'll be happy about the rise of the other corners because that means Cam Smith is going to fall to them out of South Carolina. Yet another corner with size here, 6'1", 180 pounds. So the theme of the corners in this class, again, size with a good combination of speed and quickness to go with it. So a lot of starting caliber cover men here in the first round. So when you look at that, Ravens, they like this type of corner. They need someone to replace Peters. Makes a lot of sense at number 22. Now, the Minnesota Vikings can go in many directions here. They do need a wide receiver after moving on from Adam Thielen in the offseason, but there's some depth later in this draft, especially with Smith-Njigba and Flowers off the board in this particular mock. Trenton Simpson, the linebacker out of Clemson, would be fantastic for the Vikings. They're really weak on the second level. They need someone who can clean up, make a lot of plays, get after it against the run, cover pretty well downfield. So Trenton Simpson, some boards, maybe a second-round pick, but I think this is enough range here for the Vikings to go after someone who can be a starter in their defense for a long time. So number 23, Vikings take Trenton Simpson. Sticking with the defense theme for number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. We know they loaded up big time last year in the first round with Trayvon Walker and Devin Lloyd. So really, the Jaguars need to keep thinking defense here. They do have some promise at corner with Tyson Campbell, but they need some help here. Darius Williams has been disappointing since he came over from the Rams. So you look at Kelee Ringo and what he can do. Another big corner, 6'2", 207. Jaguars put him on one side here. Their pass rush is going to get a little bit deeper here this offseason. So when you look at Ringo, again, Smith and Ringo were maybe the 1-2 here at corners, but you look at the other guys rising, so you get a guy that has some top 15 potential down here. Kelee Ringo, they did tap into Georgia last year with Trayvon Walker, so they're comfortable with that defensive scheme. Jaguars take Ringo at number 24 overall. At number 25, the Giants are on the clock, and they need some defensive help as well, but on their front. And what they need is a versatile defensive lineman to help them and get after the quarterback and make a lot of plays in the backfield. After Jalen Carter's off the board, this is the next best defensive tackle to me that can disrupt things. It's Brian Bresee out of Clemson. He's 6'6", 298, so good compact frame to get after it here against run and pass. Giants defense coming together. They got Kayvon Thibodeau last year. They're working on their secondary, so trying to get better on every level the Giants are. And you look at Bresee, he's a missing piece up front in their three-man hybrid rotation that they have. At number 26, the Cowboys lost a guard in free agency, and not a very good guard in Connor McGovern, but they need a road grading run blocker. They introduced Brian Schottenheimer as their offense coordinator. Tony Pollard is their lead back now with Ezekiel Elliott released. They need to get a guy that's going to be an absolute mauler up front. They've worked on their offensive line, rebuilding it. They added Tyler Smith now as a future star, and he will be one this year at left tackle. So now they need another guy inside as Zach Martin's getting a little bit older as well. Osiris Torrance is the pick out of Florida. 6'5", 330 pounds. We know the Cowboys love taking offensive linemen with high upside, especially in the running game. early in drafts, and this is going to be a pick almost as good as Zach Martin. I'll say that in getting O'Cyrus Torrence. I'm really impressed by his blocking, and the Cowboys will be too, and take him here at number 26. Now, the Bills will have their eye on Torrence, and maybe a running back, should Bijan Robinson be available, might look down a little bit at Jahmyr Gibbs of Alabama, but ultimately there's a perfect player for the Bills to take, and it's Drew Sanders, the linebacker out of Arkansas. Some saw him as a safety, but this kid is big, 6'4", 235 pounds. They lost Tremaine Edmonds in free agency, and why Sanders is a perfect fit is because Matt Milano is an excellent cover linebacker. He can do everything, cover a lot of ground. It's clear when he's on the field, it's really hard to solve the Bills' pass defense. Well, Drew Sanders is a bit the opposite. He flies upfield, gets after the quarterback, very productive sack artist at Arkansas. Also very good against the run. So you have an upfield guy, a downfield guy. Both can laterally move well, so it makes a lot of sense. Drew Sanders to replace Tremaine Edmonds in Buffalo as the pick at number 27 overall. At number 28, for those screaming about the Cincinnati Bengals not doing much to upgrade their offensive line, well, they splurged on Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle, but there's some issues with Jonah Williams at right tackle. He was one of the worst last year giving up sacks. He just hasn't done it here. He's had the injury issues that have slowed him down early. They project him at left tackle. He just has not cut it with offensive line at all. So they need to move on from Jonah Williams, see if they need to dump him straight up or find a person to trade with, but they need a right tackle. So might as well get that tackle right here. Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, 6'4", 315 pounds. You have a new bookend set with him and Brown. Joe Burrow is going to like it. If you're going to invest a lot of money in Joe Burrow in that second contract, you got to keep him upright and healthy. Go get that other offensive tackle, and Harrison makes a lot of sense to play off Brown up front for the Bengals. All right, we're almost done with this first round here, and we got a few more picks to go. Again, check out sportingnews.com for more draft coverage there. We've got you covered with the big board, the updated mock drafts, all that you need to know ahead of April 27th. We're up to the Saints at number 29. They got this pick from the Broncos involving the Sean Payton deal. Well, the Saints need pass rush help. They need a freakish pass rusher. They lost Marcus Davenport. Earlier, they lost Trey Hendrickson. They need somebody to help Cameron Jordan here. How about Nolan Smith out of Jordan? This kid proved he was fully healthy, explosive player, just can disrupt so many things, flies upfield. I think he could have been a little bit more productive in college, but they had so many guys racking up sacks at Georgia where somebody was going to be left without the numbers. Nolan Smith, however, very impressive when you look at him on film, and just his combine just blew it away with his athleticism. So the Saints need to rebuild the pass rush. Dennis Allen is their defensive-minded head coach still. Nolan Smith makes sense at number 29. At number 30, we had one running back on the first round. It's time for a second. It doesn't happen very often in the modern era of the draft, but there are two worthy of this round for sure. Bijan Robinson was one. We sent him to the Lions earlier. The Eagles, can they really go into a season with Rashad Penny as their lead back? Rashad Penny can't stay healthy. He's hardly been healthy for any part of his career with the Seahawks. They signed him to replace Miles Sanders. Let's stop this, and the Eagles need it back. And again, luxury picks are what you get when you're the defending NFC champs and you don't have a lot of glaring needs. So might as well go after Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, 5'9", 199. And I think one thing he does a little bit better than Bijan Robinson, catch the ball. I think he's a very effective receiver. They do have Kenneth Gainwell to help in that capacity, but what I think the Eagles want is more an every down back. Miles Sanders didn't catch a lot of passes there. So Jahmyr Gibbs would be a game changer for the Eagles. So think about it. Lions, loaded offense, they had Robinson. Eagles, loaded offense, they had Gibbs. Sometimes that's the way you do it, and you just know that you can make that pick where a lot of teams cannot afford to do that. All right, picking at number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs really had a pretty good offseason so far. They've tried to stay status quo with them as Super Bowl champs, but they do need some edge pass rush. They did release Frank Clark, so you look at a guy that you plug and play into Steve Spagnuolo's system that's going to be very productive. I think it's Isaiah Foskey, the edge rusher out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 264 pounds. He's the leading all-time sack guy at Notre Dame. they just need to keep replenishing. They got George Karlaftis in last year's draft out of nearby Purdue. They go to Notre Dame here, so Foskey and Karlaftis forming the new bookends here for Steve Spagnuolo is pretty cool. So Super Bowl champs and the first round of Sporting News' 2023 mock draft by taking Isaiah Foskey of Notre Dame. For the full 7 rounds, check out sportingnews.com. And thanks for watching and checking out all our picks 1 through 31.